Welcome to Harm live stream, and today we're talking about
the murder of Sherri Rasmussen.
And I don't know anything about this, so I'm gonna let you go ahead and tell the story.
Okay, so on the morning of February 24th in 1986, John Ruetten was getting ready to go to work. He was an engineer at the time. His wife, Sherri Rasmussen, who was 27 years old, was supposed to be getting ready to go to her job as the director of nursing at Glendale Adventist. I can never say this word. Glendale Adventist Medical Center in Van Nuys. She was super smart. She'd apparently gone to college when she was like 16. I mean, to be the director of anything at 27 years old seems pretty good to me. But that day she was supposed to go to work, she didn't want to because she was supposed to supervise a human resource class for her nurses that she thought was pretty needless. So she just called in sick that day and went back to bed, which was, as you're going to find out, is going to be a pretty bad idea. So her husband, John, he drove his BMW. When they got engaged, he bought her like a twin BMW. So he closed the garage door and her car was in there before he left. And he tried to call her throughout the day. Like he called her mid-morning just to make sure he didn't wake her up because it's kind of sweet. And she didn't answer at home and she continued not answering at home. And he actually thought, well, maybe she went to work. So he called up her office, the secretary at the hospital. It's like, no, she hasn't come in, but today is a teaching day, which was right. She was supposed to be teaching nurses. So it's not unusual for her not to come to the office. So I don't know. Don't worry. Maybe nothing. So he just kept trying to call at the house and he got nothing. So he just went through his normal work day, just thinking that's probably normal. And maybe she's sleeping. Maybe she's at work. I don't know. So he went home at the end of his work day around 5:55 and the garage door was wide open. And he had to go inside the garage to get up the stairs into the first floor. And when he was parking his BMW, he noticed there was glass on the ground. And he didn't really think much of that either. He thought, oh, maybe she hit something while she was going to work. So he went through the stairs to go up to what is essentially the first floor of his house above the garage, the second floor. But when he found that door was open, then he started getting worried. And then he knew something had to be wrong. And, something was wrong because Sherri Rasmussen was dead on her back on the floor of her living room, which is pretty awful thing to find when you're a husband. She was wearing nothing but a robe over a t-shirt. She didn't have any socks or anything else on. Excuse me. She'd been dead for hours, like pretty much almost since when he left the house. The lead homicide detective at the time, Lyle Mayer, he would later find out that there had been a pair of burglars like down the block like a month later that tried to rob. And so he would later paint the story that two men had come into the house. And while one was robbing downstairs, the other one surprised Sherri upstairs. And then they fought and they tangled because that's just what he wanted to go off of. But later, that's not so great. I've got more stuff to say on him. Do you have anything, Jason? Anything? Anything to say?
No, did you ever say what did he do for a living?
Who, him? He's an engineer.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking you were gonna go. It's always the husband. So I assume
the husband. Well,
or the boyfriend.
He doesn't come out of this looking so good either, though. I'm kind of mad at him. Not great husband material in my book. I'll keep going. Hold on.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me why.
Well, you'll find out. But okay. Sherri was shot when she was surprised in her bedroom. The intruder, whoever accosted her, shot her at least once because they found a trail of blood because Sherri managed to leave her bedroom and go downstairs. She tried to go to the front door where she could press the panic button, but she never made it that far because the same assailant came after her and she's already got a bullet wound in her. She's not moving too well. And they were grappling. There was a broken vase, which is probably the assailant used that to over the head her. And then while she was on the ground, shot her 2 more times. I'm sorry, I need some water. She was shot 3 times in that was the spine, heart, and oh my gosh, and her lung. Like any one of those bullet wounds could have killed her just once. So someone stood over her and chose where to shoot her in the chest 3 times, and she died. While this was happening, there was a housekeeper in the next door apartment condo who said that they heard some shouting but didn't hear any kind of gunfire. And that may have been because the assailant picked up one of Sherri's quilts, wrapped it around the gun, and used that to muffle the sound of the bullets. They shot through it to kill her. So it's possible that's why the housekeeper didn't hear any bullets, but a little less sound. Okay. The coroner came around 2:00 that morning, Lloyd Mahoney from the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office. This was like his second body of the night. The first one doesn't play, but I just thought that was so sad. From midnight, I wondered. So the reason I mention Lloyd Mahoney is because he was the one who took the swabbing evidence, and this was the 80s. This was before we knew that we could test for DNA. So this becomes a little important later. They did on her arm during the fight. Sherri'd been bitten hard, so they swabbed the bite. I'm gonna tell you that because you're gonna have to remember it later. And then they put the swab in a little vial, stoppered it, and put it in a storage baggie and logged it away at the coroner's office in the freezer. And but they did a whole host of tests because they used a sexual assault evidence kit, which would show nothing, no sign of sexual assault whatsoever. They went around looking for fingerprints and all that jazz. They didn't find any of that. So that's where we are. And before she was taken to the morgue herself, her parents, Loretta and Nuys Rasmussen, they come from Arizona the day after the murder. And it's here that Nuys, who has a really good name, don't you think? I don't know where it comes from, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. What?
N-E-L-S?
Yeah, N-E-L-S. Nuys. Yeah. It could be Niels, but there's no I in it. It's just N-E-L-S. Yeah. Well, that's when Nuys tells the officer in charge, the mayor, that, you know what? She's been having some trouble with her husband's ex-girlfriend. I don't know her name, but I know that she's a lady cop. She came to the house that Sherri and John were sharing, and on the pretext of, can you fix these skis for me? Wink, wink. It means that I have to come back later when your wife's not home. And then not only that kind of behavior, but this unknown lady cop had also gone to Sherri's office at her work, at her job, like wearing literally Daisy Dukes and a tube top, to say that she was going to be waiting for the relationship to fail and she was going to be the first person there. And I thought that was really classy. No thoughts?
Could have been that could be official cop uniform.
Yeah, totally. If you're in a
Undercover.
movie, if you're in Vice or something, I suppose that's an argument for that, but I don't think she actually was part of Vice at the time. This lady cop that's coming up. Okay, but how weird, right? Like, that would be upsetting if your ex-girlfriend came to my work inappropriately dressed to let me know that when I was over, she was going to be there. Okay.
As you do.
Yeah, as you do. You know, it's a normal thing to do. Right? But it was the part about the lady cop that Nels probably, I don't know if there was any way to get around that, because that I think seems to have derailed and made this investigation into the cold case that it was for so long, because Detective Mayer was like, no, that's ridiculous. Cops don't go around killing people. He brushed it off and said, you've been watching too many procedurals. You've been watching too much TV. That's not a thing. And in fact, all of the records in the Rasmussen file that had anything to do with Nell's suspicion about the lady cop, and even an interview with her husband, John, who was like, yeah, my ex is a cop, they were missing. They were just not there. Later on, when people went to go look for them, it's like, were they there to begin with? Or were they just misplaced because they thought, no, we can't let a cop's name get dragged into this for no reason, because a cop can't possibly do any harm to anyone. In fact, all the other audio interviews and the notes from the other interviews from everyone was there, but nothing where Lazarus was mentioned remained, except for 1 year later, November 87, where it's noted that John verifies that she was his ex-girlfriend. Like, there was nothing at the beginning where Sherri's father and mother were like, can we look into her? Let's look into her. She's got a reason. Let's go. But no, the Detective Mayer is like, nope, it's two burglars. And here's a picture of some Latino men. John, do you recognize these people? And he's like, why would I? I was at work. Why would I be able to recognize these people? And Mayer himself, like, estimated that the struggle that Sherri had with her attacker could have lasted like an hour and a half, which was another weird description. Do you think you could last an hour and a half against two men with a gun?
Even me?
Oh yeah, even you. Can you last an hour and a half against two men?
No, I don't think I could. It'd be hard to do it even just an hour with one person. I can't imagine having that long of a fight. Like, to me, that seems,
I know, but
never heard of anything like that.
I'm telling you, if there are two men in the house and just me, I'm not going to last an hour and a half. Like, if it's someone my size, there's a little bit more of an even fight. But I cannot. I can tell you right now.
That's like fighting for the length of a movie.
Yeah, that's his estimation. Like, by judging by the left behind blood and the damage that was gone around throughout the house, what was broken, and where they traveled to, that was his estimation. And I just thought that was awfully weird. That he thought it was feasible that two men couldn't manage to quickly subdue one unarmed woman without shoes or clothing. Not that
who had been shot.
Help, but no, just bear that. That's just weird. Meanwhile, and I mean, when somebody got her on the ground, they aimed, remember I said, right at her chest and shot her 3 death shots at once, and which seems less like a burglary and more like an assassination, right? I mean, even if you were shooting someone, would you really take the time to make sure they were going to die, or would you wing them and run away? It's kind of hard to say what you would do if you were a burglar with a gun. I don't know. When's the last time you were a burglar with a gun?
Yeah. I'm surprised at the pillow thing. I was under the impression that doesn't actually work, but I guess
it's not a pillow. It was a quilt, so it's more if you think about it. Like, I thought about it myself. I would have my gun arm, and then I would, because it's a lot. You just keep wrapping it. Yeah. You can fit a whole blanket around your arm, and then you shoot through it because the bullet's not hindered at all.
You have to check Mythbusters.
Are you checking with Mythbusters? Is that what you
said? We should do that. Yeah, I think they did one on silencers.
I'm sure they did. Not that I don't trust their research; it's better than ours.
Let's just make it up. That seems like a better.
No, but it makes sense to me, even with just a
Yeah.
pillow, that there's a dampening sound effect. I mean, there's a difference between screaming into a pillow because your husband's and screaming normally, right? Like, just pillows dampen sound. So, stands to reason to me that, quilts would dampen sound too. Where was
I? You were talking about the 1.5-hour battle.
Yes, and it just seemed weird. It seems weird now that the things that Detective Meyer said could add up to 2 burglars. I don't know. Okay, but meanwhile, nobody's checked up on Stephanie Lazarus. Like, nobody's checked up to see if she was even working that day or if she was on her day off, because if you're going to kill someone, you're not going to do it while you're working. If you're a cop, you're going to do it on your day off. I would assume. No one's questioned her. No one's taken pictures of her or, just to see if she had any kind of marks on her at all, because she's a cop and she's above suspicion. Right?
Sounds right.
Okay. So Nils and Loretta, they keep doing everything they can do to make sure that their daughter Sherri's murder is, stays at the top of the list or is in the limelight. Like, they put up a $10,000 reward, and they even have Sherri's case run on a TV show called Murder One. Have you heard of that? I haven't heard of Murder One.
No, I've never heard of it.
Must be one of the 1980s TV shows. And they called the LAPD like constantly, and they were like, "What about the lady cop? What about the lady cop?" And obviously they were shut down. Like, no lady cop, just no, it's fine. And when the Rasmussens read up about the first usage of DNA, oh my gosh, I've forgotten his name, but there was the first use of DNA to solve the murder of 2 girls in England. Do you remember this? I think it was there was a murder committed by, I swear his name is Pitchfork or something like that. Do you remember?
No.
That was like the first, like they netted the town. They had every man in the town come in and give a swab of DNA.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
And they couldn't find the guy, and then somebody in a bar's like, "You don't tell anyone, but I got paid to take someone else's test." And guess who was the murderer? Okay, so DNA is coming around. Its time is coming up, and Nils is like, "You know what? Let's do this, guys. Let's do this, LAPD." And LAPD's like, "No, we're not doing that. We don't have the money for that," and which is kind of fair. Mm-hmm. There was no budget for that kind of stuff at the time. It's very expensive. I'm probably wrong, but I wanted to say like $20,000 for a test at the time. Like, that is just a lot. It's unreasonably expensive. Like, it's just very expensive. Mm-hmm. But Nils offered to have it. He offered to foot the bill. He offered to have all the blood evidence, the hair that they found, the saliva, all of it tested at their expense, the Rasmussen's expense. The police still refused, which I kind of understand, because at the time you don't know how reputable any laboratory is. Even now, I think, especially now, you can't have it. It won't be good in a court of law unless law enforcement does it themselves, right? Like, you could say, "Hey, look, I found the evidence," and now you have to do it. So it. Oh,
I see.
Yeah. Did that make sense?
Yeah, okay. Now it does. You're saying the chain of custody issues, so you have to have.
Yeah. So it has to be above board, reputable. So the cops have to be the ones who are in charge of that, or law enforcement in some place, not just some laboratory somewhere who swears this is the answer. But okay, all that evidence is a moot point anyway. Okay, October 11th, 1993, 7 years after Sherri's murder, and right after Nils found the lab to test the evidence, Detective Phil Morit signs out all the forensic DNA samples and loses them. Jason.
I think that happens more than people
really close after the advent of DNA testing. They're gone. He later insists that he has no memory of signing out the evidence. So that's convenient, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Ugh. And coming back to why I don't like this husband, John. 1989, like a couple of years after the murder, guess who's taking a scuba trip to Hawaii together?
Was it Sonny and Cher?
John and Stephanie.
Oh.
They've reunited in Hawaii.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah. This tasteful woman in her tube tops and her ex-boyfriend whose wife was murdered. But it's okay. Because he called Detective Mayer just to make sure that she wasn't a suspect before they went. So he called to make sure she didn't kill my wife, right? Oh, it's okay then. I can. Yeah, it's fine. You know, if I even had the thought that of dating someone who may have had something to do with your death, I think that would put a damper on the whole thing. But not with John. No,
maybe he's got some kinks.
What?
Maybe he has some kinks.
Kinks. Oh, he's into murderers?
Yeah.
Murderers of his wife, maybe? Possible? Alleged? But, oh, come on. Be a little angrier. Change your facial expression. Pretend to be mad. Disgusted. Something. Oh, my God.
Tell me more about the scuba diving.
There was a tube top involved.
Nice.
Okay, both John and Stephanie went their separate ways, married other people, and started families of their own eventually. So
a lot of time passed.
What? A lot of time passed. This case went cold because all the evidence was vanished. It's lost, Jason. It's lost. I'm so angry about that. I can't believe that's a thing. Like, just brazenly, I've signed it out, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
No trouble it's just fine, whatever. Okay, so John goes on and gets his other family. Stephanie, who is a lady cop, was promoted eventually to Commercial Crimes Division, where she investigates art theft, which sounds like a really fun assignment, I gotta say. Just that's your day. You know, art theft. I don't know how much thieving of art there really is in Los Angeles, but I guess there's enough, right? Okay, all right. It's flash forward 2001. LA Police Chief Bernard Parks creates the cold case homicide unit. It's about time. It's that sounds a little late. Like, I feel like in the 90s they should have done that. Start cold cases.
Yeah, I don't know how they.
I don't know. I can't tell you who does what or where or why or when. I think the police do. What? You think the police? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So their job is to sift through the cold cases, and now that it's more widely available and there's a budget for it, test the evidence for DNA. 2004, criminalist Jennifer Francis, in the search for Sherri Rasmussen's missing evidence, managed to find the vial of the swab from the bite mark that had never been moved out of the coroner's freezer. Like, it had been in there. Like, they just forgot to move it. So it was in the coroner's freezer for 18 years. 18 years.
Next to the ice
still
cream?
in its file. What?
Next to the ice cream?
Next to the ice cream. Cadaver flavor. Yeah. Cadaver chunks.
Is that like Superman?
What?
Superman ice cream?
Oh my God, I want some ice cream.
Superman ice cream is made out of real Superman. Sorry, go ahead.
I want some Superman ice cream. How have you derailed me like this?
Yeah. So they find the vial?
So they find the vial that's been just lost behind the meatballs in the coroner's freezer for 18 straight freaking years. Wow. Instead of with the other evidence. If it had been stored with the rest of the evidence, it too would have been lost. But miracles, it's there. So Detective Francis runs the DNA through CODIS, which I had to look this up because I didn't actually know. Yeah, Combined DNA Index System is CODIS. I know that. Got no hits, but did learn that the bite mark came from a woman from a woman. So the entire theory about 2 men burglars from Detective Mayer was blown out the window, and they had to start all over again. And they knew, which is yay, that they actually looked at all the other, like Nils's point of view needed to be re-interviewed. He did. So Detective Mayer, who's now been retired for some time, is wrong. At this time, Francis didn't know anything about the lady cop theory because it wasn't in the file. Nobody put it there, even though it was reported. So what they had to do was go through the entire case file, the murder book, just page by page, and amass their own list of female suspects. And Lazarus made it on there because she was an ex. And she might have had a motive to see Sherri Rasmussen die. Yeah, because they found the detectives who opened the murder book found the part about, oh yeah, I was the ex of a cop. And then they put her at the bottom of the list of the suspects in the book, because she was a cop, and they can't they can't fathom finding a cop as a suspect.
I can't imagine that list was very long.
What? No,
I can't imagine that list.
I didn't get to see. There wasn't like a list there, so I couldn't read how many names were on it. But they had to go through the list, and they got the DNA surreptitiously through all the people. And they were so careful, because not to like in any way besmirch Lazarus's name, that they didn't even like say her name or write her name anywhere, just in case somebody would connect the dots and I don't know what. Like, it would just look bad, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. But they slashed everybody else off the list, and all was left was this police officer. And, how are they gonna, they don't want to ask her for the DNA, because they don't want to upset her, I'm guessing. I don't know. Unless they thought she'd done it and she was gonna run away, which seems unlikely. I think they just didn't want to ruffle any feathers. So they followed her and her daughter to a Costco, and they got a straw and a cup out of a trash can, and they sent that in for testing. And when the lab returned results in 2 days saying, yep, whatever DNA was on the straw, that's the bite mark. And then they knew who had bitten Sherri, and ergo, who killed her. So so at this point they had to pick 2. Have you shown a picture of Stephanie Lazarus, by the way? I love the one with her eyes.
No, we can look at them now. So here, let's do. There's the wedding picture.
Sherri and John, whom, by the way, I still don't like him, because after they were engaged, he had an affair again with Stephanie Lazarus after their engagement. So that's another thing, is that he would not let her go. Like, he's with this woman he's gonna marry, but he's kind of stringing her along at the same time. I don't like him. Did you show the picture?
Hold on. Can you? I don't know if you can see. Is it that one?
I can't see anything.
It's the one where it's the couple together next to her.
Yeah, the couple is Sherri and John, and in the orange is Stephanie Lazarus.
So the woman on the left, is that the victim?
What? The woman in the middle.
The woman in the middle. Yeah,
yes,
sorry.
The woman on the left wearing bright orange, blue. Jason.
Oh. Well, they should have known she was guilty. She's wearing orange.
No, I want you to look at her eyes. Her eyes say
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I saw the other pictures. Here, let me bring up the other one. Let's see if I can figure that out. All right. Oh, that's weird. Okay. I think there's a better way to do this, but we'll keep doing it this way.
That's okay. I'll wait. I gotta know where to go.
That one.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie Lazarus case. from People magazine.
Oh, did they do one? I didn't read an article by People.
Yeah, it says people.com.
I did get an article out of Vanity Fair. They did a good one, actually, I think. I didn't know that they did these kinds of articles.
Yeah, I didn't either. Here, let's look at the last one. The last one, let's see if it'll let me. Oop, nope, hold on. Share screen. Let me close this one. Oh, that one's good. Here, let me see if I can bring it up. Chrome tab. That one. So was she still a police officer when she was arrested?
Yes, she was still a police officer when she was arrested. She was doing the art crimes division that I was talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Somebody.
So she must have been pretty. She must have been pretty young then, because if she was 18 years had passed. Yes,
I do not remember how old she was at the time, but Sherri.
Yeah. Stephanie.
No, not Stephanie. Sherri Rasmussen was like 27 when she died.
Oh, okay.
So, the ages must be comparable, like somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Okay, but those when the results came back, yes, this is the DNA of a cop in the murder victim's arm. They went back, and they had to choose detectives who had nothing to do with her. They didn't know her, didn't like her. And so that's the basis on how they chose Detective Stearns. And is it Jaramillo or Jaramillo? There's a J in front of it, and I do not know. But they went to Stephanie's desk, and they said, hey, we've got somebody the floor below us in the jail saying they know something about some stolen art. We don't know about stolen art. Could you come with us and just, talk to him, see what he knows? And then she said, yeah, I'll do that. That's my job. I can do that. So she goes downstairs to the jail portion. But here's the tricky thing is that there's no weapons, no sidearms are allowed in the jail section. So it's like a very natural way to unarm a police officer without them knowing that. Okay. And then they sat her down in a room and said, oh, sorry, that was just we lied about that. We just didn't want everyone to know that we were bringing you here to talk about the possibility of you knowing anything about your ex-boyfriend's wife's murder. We wanted to talk about her because it's a cold case and we'd like to start over with that. You're okay. We just didn't want to say your name and, and attach it to a murder. And so they started just subtly interrogating her. Where were you that day? Or what happened? Did you know her? Had you met her? And she was being very evasive, and she was giving the old, I don't know, I don't remember. It's been so long, I have no idea. At one point, Stearns asked, did you ever fight with her? Stephanie went, have we ever fought? Yeah, did you ever duke it out with her? No, I don't think so. You would remember that, right? That would be, yeah, I would think so. Like, honestly, it just doesn't sound familiar. I mean, what are they saying? So I fought with her. So I must have killed her. I mean, come on. And I thought, she just admitted she fought with her. Are you still there? Jason? Am I alone?
No, am I still here?
I can hear you now, but it was just weird. Did you hear any of that? I'm not going over it again.
Everyone heard you except for me.
Okay.
But something's weird with I'm gonna turn off my camera for a little bit. I think I'm having we can hear you though. So I'm gonna see if I can get my audio and not see what happens.
Okay. All right. So she basically admits that at some point she was fighting with the victim. But she admitted to like nothing else. Like she just kept saying, I don't know. It's been so long. I don't know. But at some time, Lazarus catches on to the fact that she's been there so long and they're asking her some pretty pointed questions. And she's like, no, this is enough. And she gets up. She leaves the room where she is arrested for the murder of her ex-boyfriend's wife and then brought back into the room Yeah. She's Mirandized, then she's taken to jail, and she's held on $10 million worth of bail, which I actually think is pretty good. Like they've taken the cop to jail and they're holding her. Yeah. But she was convicted of first-degree murder March of 2012, and she was given 27 years to life, and she's now being held in the California Institution for Women in Corona. And she'll be eligible for parole like pretty quick, actually, like December 2024. But that is the cold case of Sherri Rasmussen and the cop Stephanie Lazarus, who murdered her out of jealousy.
So what's the lesson there?
The lesson is never trust people in authority. I don't know. How did Stephanie get into the house? Did she just show up? Because it seems to make sense to me that since she'd shown up at the house before, that she'd show up at the house again, and that Sherri would open the door, and once the door was open even a little, maybe Shelly would be able to barge in. But no, it sounds like, oh, that's right. I forgot to explain away the broken glass in the garage. Lazarus stole the car. She came in at the front door, killed Sherri, went down to the basement, broke open the BMW, and drove it away and left the garage door open. And they found the car like a week later or something like that. And I thought that was very weird. Like, how did she get there? Where was her car? That's something I didn't find out, why she took the BMW. Just to make it look like it was a robbery, to turn it into a robbery. But then nothing happened to the car. Nobody chopped it. It was just hanging out. And they didn't find any evidence in there either. Like, it was the 80s. No, they didn't really have DNA. So they weren't really looking for, I don't know. You'd think they would have found something, but no fingerprints, because she's a cop. She knows how to hide that stuff.
I feel like it was the 80s, I think, is a good excuse for a lot of things. So, internet problems.
It was the 80s.
That was a good story. We'll do at some point. We'll probably do a whole video on this case on the live stream. Do you have anything you want to end with?
No, just let that man go, please. Just let that other person go. You can do better. Don't murder people.
See, it was the girlfriend this time, not the boyfriend. The ex-boyfriend. Or ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, it was the ex-girlfriend with the crazy eyes. Mm-hmm. You never suspect the ex-girlfriend with the crazy eyes.
Now I do. All right. Yeah, that was a good story. Thanks everyone for watching. Please subscribe. We're going to be doing more of these, but we'll try to work out these tech issues as we go. So.
Also, this was my first time. Please be gentle.
I've heard that before. All right.
From who?
Bye, everyone.
Bye.